Second week of college football picks here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, but first game for many teams across the country. Week 0 in the books, week 1 on the docket, and a lot of marquee matchups, including a Big Ten showdown. My week 1 picks here from the Hawkeye of the Storm for the major games across the country. We start in the Big Ten Conference. Penn State and Purdue, battle of two teams in opposite divisions, and certainly Purdue, a game, I've been saying this for months. I believe if Purdue wins this game, they become the odds-on favorites to win the West. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa all have two marquee games in the other division and cross-divisional games. Purdue just the one against Penn State. They avoid Michigan. They avoid Michigan State. They avoid Ohio State, meaning if they can get by this one and they play Indiana, and I believe it's either Rutgers or Maryland, they have a great shot of winning this division behind Aiden O'Connell, Charlie Jones, Tyrone Tracy, and the rest of that Purdue passing attack. I like Penn State in this game. The line right now is Penn State by 3.5. I've got Penn State covering that line narrowly. Again, of course, winning it straight up. If you're an Iowa fan, I can just tell you're rooting hard for Penn State. All right, and I know a lot of people don't like James Franklin. I'm not a big fan of James Franklin. I don't think Kirk Ferentz likes either one of these head coaches, although I have a lot of respect for Jeff Brom, the football coach. I like Penn State to win this game, and that would certainly help Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, at least this early in the season. Battle of the transfer portal quarterbacks, JT Daniels and the Mountaineers taking on the Pitt Panthers and, Keaton Slovis and the Pitt Panthers, the USC transfer. This is a game I've got Pittsburgh winning straight up. I like West Virginia to cover. Pitt favored by 7.5. I could see this being a one-touchdown game, like a 27-34, somewhere in there. I think, again, narrowly, I think West Virginia covers the number, but Pittsburgh wins straight up. Oregon, Georgia, one of the best games this week. And again, there's a ton of them. Georgia, big line, 17-point favorites over a top 20 team in the Oregon Ducks. And, I have a hard time. Certainly Vegas knows more than I do. Right? The Sharps know a lot more than I do on these lines. This is Vegas begging me to take Oregon, and I'm going to fall for it here, and maybe I'll regret that. But I've got Oregon covering the number. Georgia's going to win this game straight up. The defending national champions will take care of business and get by the Ducks. But one of the best games during week 1. Utah, Florida, kind of an underrated matchup. A Utah team that, in many people's eyes, a contender for the college football playoff this year. I like Florida straight up. I think they're going to upset the Utes. It is a home game for the Florida Gators. I like Florida to cover that. They're 3-point underdogs, which doesn't seem like much when you're talking about a top 10 Utah team and an unranked Florida team that went 500 last year. But I like the Gators to bounce back and get a nice start to their season as well. Notre Dame, Ohio State, my game of the week, although Penn State, Purdue is right up there. But talk about another outstanding line, or very interesting line, I should say. Maybe that's the right word. I want to make Notre Dame fans more upset than I have in the past. Ohio State favored by 17.5. Again, Vegas begging for me to take Notre Dame, which I'm going to do. I may regret it. Maybe I'll learn the hard way. I've got Notre Dame covering the number. I've got Ohio State winning straight up. Cincinnati and Arkansas. Cincinnati, another team that made the playoff last year. I like Arkansas to win this game straight up. I like Arkansas to cover the number. They are 6-point favorites. I think they cover. I think they win. Memphis and Mississippi State. Mississippi State, 15.5-point favorites. I like MSU to both win and cover the number. I think this is a game I could see Mississippi State winning by 20 or more. These are two teams that can kind of be erratic at times in their respective conferences, but the talent of Mississippi State going to be too much for the Tigers. I like Mississippi State. Oregon State and Boise State, another underrated matchup. OSU just 3-point favorites against the Boise Broncos. I'll take Oregon State to cover that number and, of course, to win straight up. Utah State and Alabama, talk about a number. Alabama favored by 41.5. 41.5 to a team that received top 25 votes. What is going on? Now, Utah State did struggle for a while against one of the worst FBS teams in the country in UConn last week. At least we perceive them to be one of the worst FBS teams. We don't know. I mean, that was week 0 of a new season. I'm not going to read too much into that. I'm taking Utah State against that number. I am not. Listen, if they cover the 41.5, I mean, my goodness. But whoever voted them top 25 ought to be fired, because no top 25 team should be losing to any team by 42 points. I've got Bama straight up, Utah State against that spread. North Carolina taking on Appalachian State, a team no stranger to big-time upsets. I like UNC to both cover the spread and win straight up. It's an interesting game. You look at the docket for week 1, and you're kind of scrolling through, and yeah, okay, here's North Carolina, Appalachian State, but people don't realize this game is on the road. This game is a road game for the Tar Heels, so it is a tricky one. And again, we know the history of Appalachian State and upsets. UNC just 1.5-point favorites. Unbelievable to me. And yeah, they don't have Howell. I mean, I get it's a different team with Mac Brown still at the helm. I like North Carolina to win and cover on the road. I think this is a line. Would be one of my safest, most surest picks for week 1. Watch Appalachian State win. No, I got UNC winning and covering the number. LSU, Florida State, another really underrated matchup for week 1. This is a Sunday night game. Right now, at least the opening line, I believe, was 3 in favor, of course, of the Tigers. I like LSU to cover that number as well. Florida State's got a lot to prove to me before I start picking them in lines they're really this tight, really this close, especially against the likes of an LSU. 6:30 p.m. on ABC. I know they can give you times for the rest of those games, but this is a unique one on Sunday night. It'll be a nationally televised game in the All-State Louisville kickoff. And finally, Clemson, Georgia Tech, another very intriguing matchup on a Monday night, September 5th. Last FBS teams to play week 1, 7 o'clock Central Time on ESPN Monday in the Chick-fil-A kickoff. I know Georgia Tech's the trendy pick for an upset here. I actually like Georgia Tech against the spread. I like Clemson straight up. The number is 21.5 in favor of the Clemson Tigers. So in recap, I really don't have a ton of upsets in week 1. Really any upsets besides that Florida one. Florida over Utah, which, yeah, it's a bit of an upset. Florida's the home team. Utah, the 3-point favorites. You'd think it'd be a bigger number there. But I think there are a number of teams that have a shot at pulling off the upset this week. There's a lot of week 1 games. This is about as good of a week 1 docket as you can ask for in college football. So I'll be here for all of it. Appreciate you tuning in for my week 1 picks here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Please like and subscribe. Be sure to check out Ascent Nutrition and their algae oil DHA, their pine pollen powder, and this stuff. Their Ascent coffee. I know you guys out there drink coffee in the morning. This stuff is great. It's mold and mycotoxin free. Go ascentnutrition.com, folks. Use the code Hawkeyes, 15% off mold and mycotoxin free coffee. Go ascentnutrition.com. We'll talk to you soon. Iowa, South Dakota State preview coming up tomorrow night right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.